So today is Wednesday, and that means it's time for the next in our Disney Canon reviews that we're looking at. And today is the big one, the one I've been very, very much looking forward to. Today we're going to talk about The Little Mermaid. Little Mermaid came out in 1989, and it's a movie-going experience that I won't forget. When I was 8 years old, going to this theater called the Villa Theater in Salt Lake that had balcony seats, and it's really sad because now it's used to sell rugs, but at the time it was this really beautiful theater, and going in there and seeing Little Mermaid and just being blown away. And this, I think that it's just so different than what it is now back then, because now it's like they have their princess movie, and then 2 months later, the next month later, they have another animated film at kids to talk about. I mean, this year you have so many animated films. Zootopia is practically kind of almost halfway forgotten, whereas like back in my day, way back then, you had Little Mermaid as practically the only Disney or other studio animated film for years to think about, and so I love Little Mermaid so much. I would sit up with my sister, and we would have sort of battles of or disagreements of who sounded the most like Ariel. We would sing all of the songs. We loved all of the songs, and it was just something that was my favorite movie till I was probably in high school, and it's still, I think, holds up, and it's still one of my favorite films. It's still tied for my favorite Disney film, and I think there's some nostalgia in that, I admit it, but there's also a lot of really good things about this movie. So, and I'm going to try to kind of counter some of the criticisms that I've heard over the years, but mainly I'm just going to focus on the reasons why I love it. So, of course, this film was directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, and this was their second film. They had done The Great Mouse Detective before, and they had a really good response from the music and Oliver and Company, and so that is why they had decided to go the musical route. As I had mentioned in my Oliver Company review, they'd kind of thrown a lot at the wall to see what stuck. Music was one thing that stuck, and so they went the full musical. And really, in the 90s, Disney was basically the thing that kept the musical alive. Like, there weren't live action musicals being made like they are today. And so Beauty and the Beast and all the different musicals, and I've always loved to sing, and the songs in Little Mermaid are fantastic, and all the vocal performances are fantastic. And of course, you've got this story of this girl based on the Hans Christian Andersen story, where Ariel is a teenager. She is feeling rebellious. She's feeling like she doesn't fit in. But I think there's a little bit more to her than maybe some people give her credit for. People say that, oh, Ariel just made the deal with Ursula so that she could be with Eric, so that she could get a man. And I don't think that that is true. If you think about who she is, she has this grotto full of items from the human world. She's out hunting for items from the human world. And she looks at the fork when she first gets at the Dingelhofer, and she says, I just don't understand how a world that makes such beautiful things could be bad. And she sees this world as something different than everybody else that is around her sees it. And so this is not something that has just all of a sudden come because she saw a pretty face. This is a yearning that she has felt for a long time. I mean, you don't collect that much of something without really, really believing and loving it and having a passion for it. That's just not something that you do. And if you know about the first Ariel's beginning, the prequel, if it's considered canon, she has the music box from her mother. And, so it could be that maybe even that started a certain degree of the love of things from the human world. And even if that's not the case, I've always gotten the feeling from Ariel that she's a character that's not comfortable in her own skin. That is why she has become a hero in a lot of ways to the LGBT community, and that she's somebody who isn't doesn't belong. And she doesn't belong under the sea. She doesn't belong in her environment. Nobody really understands her. And yet she sees these artifacts from the human world. She sees the human world and she yearns for it. She knows that's where she belongs. And that's a really powerful thing. And it's something I really related to as a little girl. When I was little, I didn't like being little. I wasn't a kid that I wasn't that whimsical of a child. I wasn't somebody who daydreamed as far as sort of imaginative worlds. I was a kid that I remember I would go through my mom's wallet and look at all of her credit cards and be like, oh, I can't wait till I'm an adult and have my own wallet with my own stuff and people take me seriously. I didn't like being treated like I was stupid just because I was a kid. So the story of Ariel, with also some of those feelings, really rang true for me, and especially part of your world. And one thing that I don't think people realize is that she doesn't even see Eric for the first time until the 21-minute mark of the film. And she's already sang part of your world. She's already expressed her desire to be part of the human world. And she has already missed the concert because of her desire to be part of the human world. So I think it's pretty clear that the seeing of Eric and falling in love with Eric at first sight, that was just the catalyst to finally do something that she had always wanted to do. And she knew she wasn't going to get any help from her father in that department. And here Flotsam and Jetsam promise her that they can give her that Ursula can give her what she wants. And she's just had her entire grotto, everything she loves, everything that's so important to her, destroyed by her father. So she's in a very vulnerable position, which is why Ursula tempts her right then. And so it all kind of makes sense to me. I think it makes sense for her character, and I think it's actually makes sense that, you know, some people see it as a really selfish action that she takes, and it is in a way, but at a certain point, like, you have to fight for what you know is right for you, and it was really her only option. I look at it as more or less a selfish act and more an act of desperation, that was it. That was the only way that she was ever going to be able to find and be where she belongs. And I think Triton even realizes this at the end when he sees her and she's crying and she's upset because she has to watch Eric, and he says she really does love him, doesn't she? And she says, and then Sebastian says, I always say children have to be allowed to make their own way and do their own things, and he says, you always said that. And then that is when he changes her, because he realizes that is where she belongs. And so, yeah, I think he realizes that he was actually the selfish one. He says, the only thing I'm going to have to figure out is how I'm going to miss her, how much I'm going to miss her. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that any girl is going to watch The Little Mermaid and be like, wow, well, I can just be selfish and do whatever I want. Plus, the fact that she realizes what she did was wrong, that she didn't realize who else would pay for her dream. She says, I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't know.
Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
There you go. You know, that's it. She says it. So, yeah, I really reject that argument against the movie. But let's get back to sort of the story. So, of course, we know that she feels this desire to become a human, and she sings part of her world. Sebastian kind of finds out about it. He is assigned to watch over her by Triton, and he tries to convince her that she's being very foolish, and he sings Under the Sea. And Under the Sea is one of the great Disney songs for sure. I love the fact that each fish that's in the scene is not only a different color, but it's also a different instrument. So by the end of the song, you have something like something like 50-piece orchestra, some huge, you know, orchestra. I forget the number of instruments, but anyway, you have this just incredible song. It's just such a catchy, great song. And so then we meet Ursula pretty early on, and we see that, you know, she's just this crazy character. I love her design. I love that she's sort of this cross between the drag queen and truck driver. Pat Carroll's voice was such a brilliant choice, and she's out for revenge. She was banished by Triton, and we don't know why. And I love it when she's like putting on the lipstick, and you know, life's full of tough choices, isn't it?
Simple. The only way to get what you want is to become a human yourself.
Can you do that?
My dear, sweet child, that's what I do. It's what I live for, to help unfortunate merfolk like yourself. Poor souls with no one else to turn to.
Ariel is angry with her father, and she decides to go and hear the witch out. And Ursula is a very convincing saleswoman, and she's saying, "Poor unfortunate souls." And
The end of
tells Ariel that, you know, she's actually a good person. Nobody understands her, and so I think it makes sense that she would buy this. She's young and she feels misunderstood, and so here's her chance, you know. And Ursula is very, very, very vague about the consequences of this choice, and so it kind of makes sense. And so
what I want from you is your voice.
My voice?
You've got it, sweet cakes. No more talking, singing, zip.
But without my voice, how can I...
You'll have your looks, your pretty face. And don't underestimate the importance of body language. Ha!
So she gets her legs, and that's when is on land after that, and she meets Eric, and we get some kind of silly scenes with her and using the fork for her hair and stuff, and it's definitely very silly. But we get the chef Louis from the castle is preparing all of the meals, of course, with the fish, and he sings Les Poissons.
First act, cut off. Les poissons, les poissons.
And it is hilarious. It's totally random. It doesn't have anything to do with the story, but it's so funny, and I love it. The next scene, we see her out with Eric getting a tour of the kingdom. And this is another spot where I think you really see that she is where she belongs, that there's more to this desire to be human than just being with the person she loves. Everything that she sees, she lights up. She's so excited. It's just the happiest that you see her practically in the whole film. And so there's something to it that she belongs in this world. And I mean, everything from the puppeteers to you know, driving the carriage to everything else that she sees is just like, you know, and you wouldn't have that kind of response if it wasn't something that you really, really loved and you know, you really were just so excited about. And so we get there, and she almost gets Eric to kiss her in Kiss the Girl, which is such a fun song.
And she won't say a word until you kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, don't be scared. You got the moves right there. So on and kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, don't stop now. Don't try to hide it out. You wanna kiss the girl. Sha-la-la-la-la-la, float along and listen.
I remember I just thought that was so hilarious as a kid, and it got great vocals from Samuel Wright, who plays Sebastian. Voices Sebastian is so good, and I think they did a good job with the animation of Ariel in these scenes because she can't speak, and so you have to make her extra expressive in her eyes and some other things, and so there's just a real sweetness and joyousness about it. And so we get to that scene, and Ursula realizes, holy cow, she's good. She's good. So then that's when Ursula becomes Vanessa, and she bewitches the Prince Eric, and they end up getting engaged, and they're going to get married that day. And it's the last day that Ariel has to win him over. Well, so they decide to break up the wedding, and Scuttle and Sebastian and everybody else, but it's just a little bit too late. And that's when Ariel is turned back into a mermaid, and Ursula takes control. And Triton makes the deal with Ursula that he gets turned into one of her little creatures, and she takes his Triton and becomes this huge, huge octopus, you know, over the whole ocean. She's ruling everything. And we get this great final scene between Eric, who's awesome, I think, in these scenes, Ariel, and you just see her despair at everything that is happening, and it feels pretty scary. I remember being pretty scared as a kid.
So much for true love!
And you get, finally, Eric is the one who ends up defeating Ursula. And then we, of course, get our happy ending. So I just love it. I think this movie is so great. I love this message of this character who feels uncomfortable in her own skin and needs sort of a way out. It's something I've always really related to very much. I love Jodie Benson's vocals as Ariel, and I love the attention to detail that the Disney company had with this. Something like the fact that every time a character moves, you see little bubbles around them. And there's actually 1 million bubbles that were animated in here. And I think you can see the passion in the music. Alan Menken's music and Howard Ashman's lyrics. Howard Ashman is an incredible person, and he was actually granted a co-writing credit on this film because he contributed so much to the story, and he was famous for dressing up as the characters and improvising and showing the animators kind of the way that they should be animated. And I think you can really see that sense of dramatics to it all, and I love it. I think it's funny. I think it's exciting. I think it's sweet. I think it's got great songs, great vocals, great characters. To me, it holds up for all those reasons that I gave. It probably goes without saying, I give Little Mermaid an A+, because it's my favorite movie. And like I said, I debate. I think The Beauty and the Beast is the better made film. I think that film is basically perfect in execution, but I think that The Little Mermaid is my personal favorite, if that makes sense. And I just love it. Yeah, sure, they got a little better with the animation over time, and there's the Le Poisson's song doesn't really need to be there. It's kind of wasted, but I still think it's funny. I still like it. So yeah, that is my thoughts on The Little Mermaid. It's, like I said, one of my favorites. So let me know what you think about Little Mermaid, And thanks so much. Please subscribe to my channel and talk to you later. Bye.